One of these men is a highly respected New York attorney, Lucas A. Ferrara. The other is a self-proclaimed man of the people, known as Mert Roberts. Their aim is to discuss the hottest issues impacting our city, state, and nation. Fasten your seatbelts. Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live, starts now on AM 970. The Answer.
I am so happy to be back. I just wanted to note, and with me this evening, my co-host Mert Roberts, and in the control room is the great Alex Garrett. Thank you, guys. We've been speaking to Pamela Gale Johnson, and I asked her to come back for the second hour because we still haven't spoken about her book. I have a couple of more questions. She is the author of the new book, Practical Happiness, 4 Principles to Improve Your Life, published by Simon & Schuster. And Pamela, I apologize for interrupting you. You were talking about your dad having cancer, but we had a hard break coming.
No.
So if you could continue what you were about to say before I rudely interrupted you.
Oh, no, you did not rudely interrupt me. No, I was just saying that, even knowing he was going to pass, when that phone call came, it's still a gut punch of, unhappiness. It's a big... It was a harder gut punch than I was prepared for because I kind of thought, oh, I'm prepared. I know this is happening. And, it's still there. And it's also a big, valid, real emotion. And I actually, when I talk about happiness zappers, unhappiness is it is kind of grief, for lack of a better word. We're usually grieving something, which could be a person. It also could be a lifestyle change. Maybe our doctor... we have a condition we're dealing with, and they're like, you're never eating fried food again, except maybe once a year on your birthday. And you're like, hey, I'm grieving that lifestyle. Or we decide, I've now reached that era where I can't be running the marathons I wanted to run because my knees just aren't happy about it. We have to grieve those things, and that is a process. And it's, like I said, it's the gut punch. It also doesn't mean that even during a gut punch, no happy moments took place. They possibly did.
Yeah, yes. Yeah, you did. I'm sorry. You had identified earlier there were 31 happy. What was the exact word you used?
I call them 31 types of happiness.
Can you share some of them?
That's actually principle 4 of the book. Yeah. Well, that's principle 4 of the book, which is happiness is bigger than you think. And so, I'll share some. There's the obvious ones like fun and humor and those kinds of things that we enjoy, that we all easily relate to. But some of them are like, I put honor as one. Honor is when we do the honorable thing, even when it was hard. So maybe we're at work. We get credit for something we weren't supposed to get credit for. And we actually speak up in the meeting and say, hey, maybe I was a part of that, but so were these other 4 people. And I want to make sure they're getting credit too. That's the honorable thing to do. And when we go home the next day, we're going to feel good we did it. We're not going to be feeling like, we're not going to be feeling like, I had to be a attention hog and take all the credit for stuff I didn't do. And we built some bridges with our colleagues. Relief is a type of happiness, in my opinion, that is so underrated. So relief can be anything from, hey, I finally cleaned out my garage, and it looks great, to, because nobody's sitting around going, I can't wait to go clean my garage. But once you did it, you feel really good that you did it. And you'll feel that ripple effect for quite a while. I mentioned content because I think content, again, is a sort of underrated type of happiness. You don't want that to be your only type of happiness, but being content, when you feel good about your life and you're like, I love my friends, I love, whatever's on my bucket list, and I'm going down and I'm checking it and I'm having a great time doing that. I don't need to make any big changes. I like my job. I like that I'm retired or whatever that is.
So it sounds like you're advocating.
An underrated one.
It sounds like you're advocating positive thinking. It's all taking situations, celebrating accomplishments.
Positive feeling.
Yeah. Yep.
Feeling. I want you to feel these things, not just think them, because there's nothing worse. And so gratitude is obviously a type of happiness. So there's nothing worse when you're like in a little happiness zapping place. And if I said to you, what are 5 things you're grateful for? You could list them because you know that you maybe lived a blessed life. I will tell you on my worst day, I live a blessed life. Having said that, if I'm having a pity party, so to speak, if I'm in one of these moments that nothing's feeling blessed because it's just a frustrating experience, somebody looking at me and telling me to count my blessings or be grateful, I'm like, yeah, right, because I'm not feeling it. Like maybe my head knows it, but my heart's not feeling it. But in that moment, maybe I can watch a silly cat video and laugh. And then I have that little feel-good moment. So sometimes it's about those little teeny little steps to get to the bigger moment.
Breaking the cycle of negativity is what it sounds like to me.
Yes, but from a feeling perspective.
Yeah.
I want you to feel good. Remember that. Feel good, not just think good. But you can't feel good if you think bad. So they go hand in hand.
Now, your book is about 4 principles. Is there a way to summarize them quickly for us, or is it just too complicated to sort of unpack?
We've covered 2. So principle 1 is happiness is personal. You got to make sure you know what makes you happy, not what makes other people around you happy. And sometimes we give up on the things that make us happy so we can be happy for somebody else. Principle 2, we just talked about. Happiness zappers are manageable, so we want to manage what makes us unhappy. Principle 3, and this is one that also gets lost a lot, happiness changes as you change. So while it sounds obvious, and it is obvious, we don't always embrace it. So sometimes when we're in our 30s or 40s or 50s or 60s, we're trying to be happy like we were when we were 15. That rarely works because our life has changed, and so things will change and our happiness changes. And then the 4th one is happiness is bigger than you think, and it's about the 31 types of happiness.
And people, if you're paying attention, happiness is not elusive. It's here. It's now. Pamela, amazing stuff. Guys, any questions or comments for Pamela?
Well, if I may say, Pamela, I'm loving what you're talking about today. One of the things that I would, and it's Alex here, by the way, one of the things I would say is what makes me happy is when I set a goal for the day and I accomplish that goal. In your time in this happiness genre, have many people talk about that, like how setting goals makes them happy?
Well, setting goals can make us happy because it has satisfaction, which is one of our 31 types of happiness. And I do think, like, setting goals, learning new things. We know all these things, again, are part of our happiness journey, and that's where we sometimes have to put effort into what makes us happy, and we don't just assume it's going to, like, rain on us. Like, oh, happiness is just falling out of the sky. Sometimes we have to, and so for somebody who, you're probably a type A personality because you're a goal setter, so setting that goal, achieving that goal is your happiness is personal.
Well, yeah, and I love walking out of the workspace, knowing that at least one thing is off my plate for the day and we'll pick it up tomorrow,
And I love that you know that about you. Some people just don't even know what those small things are. But that's
why, Pamela, they need to read your book, Practical Happiness, 4 Principles to Improve Your Life. Is there any website or any information you'd like to share with our listeners today?
You know what? Go visit sohp.com so you can celebrate Happiness Happens Month with us. We actually, this year, we've got a Happiness Happens prompt sheet. So we're going to give you 31 questions that you can fill in the blank on. But there are also questions you can use to discuss with your coworkers. In fact, we encourage you to we have a kit for people who have offices and such that they're trying to do something fun in August. But we recommend they get the Happiness Happens Month prompt sheet and make those questions part of your conversation.
Hey, Mert, any questions or comments for Pamela before she leaves?
No, she covered it all. I learned a lot, so she pretty much covered it all, so I don't have any questions.
I don't know. It sounds like you could teach me a few things, so it sounds like you got your arms around happiness. I love it.
boy, Pamela Gail Johnson, you've made me happy by being on the program this evening, and I encourage everyone to check out her new book, Practical Happiness, 4 Principles to Improve Your Life. It's available at all the major retailers, Barnes & Nobles, Amazon, you name it, you could find the book there. Pamela, be happy forever, and thank you for sharing some of that happiness with us.
Thank you so much for having me on your show, and I if any of your listeners have questions, they can contact me via the website.
Please do. Feel free to reach out. Thank you, and have a wonderful night.
You too. Thank you. Bye-bye.
That was fun. That was a lot of fun. Thank you. Hey, guys, back to the politics. But before we go there, any questions or comments? I don't mean to...
Well, I mean, I hope this show takes away from your chronic crankiness, Lucas, that you enjoy doing this every week. It sounds like you're having a lot of fun on the air, and you're happy with it, right?
No comment. Mert!
Yes.
Are you happy?
Listen, I'm very happy. The one thing that I was going to comment, but it really wouldn't have fit. What about people who like benefiting from other people's suffering? I might be one of those type of guys where I like to see somebody lose. If I'm playing a game like basketball or a video game or something like that, I get happiness from seeing other people lose. And I'm pretty sure as an attorney, you get joy at the expense of somebody else's downfall sometimes. It's just a natural part of being competitive. So
I don't know why you didn't bring it up when we had Pamela. Look, who doesn't like to win? Who doesn't like to be part of a winning team? I mean, even Pamela brought up the Olympics and the gold medal. Who doesn't want the gold medal? Everybody wants to be at the top. So I don't know what the answer to that is, though, why you find joy in other people's pain. I think that makes you a masochist. Alex?
No. It's not that. It's a competition thing. I know. Relax. It's a competition thing. When you practice, you went to law school. You gave it your all, and when you finally get against other people who match your conditions, and you come out with a victory, don't you feel thrilled? Don't you feel excited that you were able to overcome somebody who you respect? That's what I'm talking about. I'm not talking about beating up on somebody who's weaker than me. I'm talking about competing against somebody at an equal skill level and overcoming it. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but that is competition. That is true. But you finding balance, because I don't find joy in other people's loss. I find joy in the fact that I've achieved a result for my client. So it's different. It's a different perspective. Sometimes I enjoy kicking somebody's butt, but I don't think I'm allowed to say that on radio.
Well, you just did, so we heard it. Oh, my
God, can we bleep that out?
Alex, bleep that out. We heard you.
Hey, our next guest in a few minutes after the break is going to be Wendy. Wendy is sending me a text, Alex. She wants you to reach out to her, please. Wendy Lyon Sunshine. She's going to talk about her new book, Tender Paws, which I'm finding fascinating. But, guys, we have a few minutes before the break, and there was a story that came out that I wanted to talk to you about. There is this billionaire, LinkedIn billionaire, who is supporting Kamala Harris. And he's given like millions of dollars. I think according to one report on CNN, he's given her like $7 million, okay? But he's saying that it comes with certain conditions. He wants her, if she gets elected, to get rid of a certain person in the government. It just happens to be the chair of the Federal Trade Commission. Now, since when is it okay to condition the giving of money to a politician upon the return of certain favors? That strikes me as corruption. I thought it was stupid that people would speak openly about this. I'll give you $7 million, but you got to fire that person. Who, by the way, this guy is on the board of Microsoft, and he's chair of LinkedIn. So I guess this person at the FTC must be coming after them or the companies that he's associated with.
Well, you know what? I don't think that's illegal because it's all on the board. You know, everybody can read that article. Everybody could look at their comments. And I think what's illegal is when you don't make it known what you're giving your money for. For example, how many average Joes say, I'm going to make a donation to the campaign because they're going to fight for something I believe in? They're going to pass legislation for something I believe in, so I'm going to give my money. But you think because it's $7 million that's any different? I don't think there's any difference there.
I think there's a difference. I mean, if I align with a politician because I agree with his or her or its views, that's one thing, right? And if I contribute to the campaign, usually it's done anonymously and the candidate has no idea or has no idea that I even did it. But this is a guy that's in the media. CNN is reporting, I'm supporting Kamala, but I wanted to do something in exchange. That to me, now look, I'm not a criminal guy. I'm not saying it's a crime. It smacks of political corruption to me. It's almost like influence peddling. It's almost bribery.
I disagree because I would disagree with that because it's out in the open. Maybe this idea that he has will benefit not only him but his company. In turn, his employees and that whole economy will be stimulated by this legislation that he's trying to support. So I don't think this is corruption. I think if you go in and you try to get money for yourself, like here, you give me, I'll give you support. No. Actually, this is what I'm trying to say. If the politician is paying this individual for their support, I think that's corruption. But I think if you go out, I think if you go. You never know.
A politician paying you. No, didn't Menendez in Jersey just get indicted for accepting money and gifts, and he was helping his client or whatever that person was, helping him with Egypt and doing his bidding in exchange for cars for his wife and all that
and gold bars, right?
Yeah, that's corruption, my friend.
Right, but and this is different. This is different. If the money is going to go to something that's going to benefit people.
Well, that's exactly what this guy's saying. He's asking for a new chair because it'll benefit his company and the companies he's associated with. I think it's a different variation of the same thing. I mean, look, I respect your opinion. But, Alex, do you have a thought one way or the other about that?
It does sound a bit like pay for play, if you ask me.
Yeah, it does.
But the idea that he wants the mergers of these big corporations, that's another debate, because that's what he's basically saying is this woman currently running the FTC opposes big mergers, and sometimes I think the corporate mergers could be a bit too much, so maybe she's doing America a service by doing that, and he just doesn't like it. So to ask Kamala to do Vice President Harris to do it, it's pay for play.
Yeah, it's unseemly. If it's not illegal, and I'm not saying it is, it just strikes me as unseemly and inappropriate. And I don't know why he thought it was okay to come out publicly. In fact, Bernie Sanders and quite a few people have been in an uproar about this, saying, the arrogance of Mr. Hoffman, that's Bernie Sanders, billionaires should not be telling candidates who to be keeping or not. Sanders said, this concerns me because Linda Khan, she's the FTC chair, is doing a great job. So he agrees with you, Alex. And I would hope and expect the VP, if she wins, keeps her on. Now, I really agree with Bernie Sanders, but how about this? I think Bernie got it right.
Well, I think Bernie is being disingenuous because I believe this goes on behind the scenes all the time. And if rich people were to do this open and honestly, for the most part, we'd be able to hold them accountable as well, instead of just the politicians. Because you got to understand, there's money backing up a lot of these politicians and giving them the guts to push and fight for some of the things they do. So if we know where this money is coming from, maybe we can hold a lot more people accountable.
Well, that's a good point, but I don't think that makes it right. Now, we're going to go to a break, and when we come back, we're going to be joined by Wendy Lyon Sunshine, who's the author of a new book, Tender Paws. Can't wait to speak to Wendy about that. So we'll go to a break, and we'll be back in a few minutes.
Over the the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate, on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Government debt is now exploding by an unprecedented $1 trillion every 90 days. Think of that. It's a clear sign that our nation's finances are spinning out of control, and it's putting the savings of every one of you at risk. Hello, I'm Lance Wallnow, a news analyst and best-selling author and an evangelical leader. I'm deeply concerned about the impact this runaway debt is going to have on Christians like you who have worked hard to build your own nest egg for your family. To protect your financial future in these uncertain times, you need to diversify with something tangible and proven, like physical gold. That's why I recommend a gold IRA. To learn more, text FAITH to the number 989898, and my friends at Birch Gold Group will rush you a free info kit on how to move your IRA or 401k to physical precious metals, tax and penalty-free. So don't wait. Just text the word FAITH to 989898 to get your free info kit on gold IRAs. Birch Gold Group is the only company I trust. There's no obligation. So text FAITH to 989898, and I pray this information helps you achieve prosperity and peace of mind.
Congress is poised to pass a bill to keep AM radio in cars. But time is running out. 82 million Americans risk losing the news, sports, talk, traffic, and vital emergency information they rely on. Text AM to 52886 and tell Congress to pass this bill now.
Message and data rates may apply. You may receive up to 4 messages a month, and you may text STOP to stop.
This message furnished by the National Association of Broadcasters.
The new 2-part documentary, Trump's Front Row Joes, is the first inside look at Trump's diehard fans.
The Front Row Joes are incredible people.
Camping out for days to be the front row at every Trump rally to support their hero.
The kind of basis for all the rallies, they're just like dead fans.
Trump's Front Row Joes, from executive producer Sean Spicer.
You had to love Mr. Donald Trump.
Trump's Front Row Joes. Watch it now. Go to salemnow.com. salemnow.com. Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
Hello, my friends. Welcome back for another segment of Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live in the control room. Alex Garrett. Thank you, Alex. And we have for our next guest an accomplished writer who just the other day had a piece in the Wall Street Journal that I'm going to be asking her about in a few minutes. Wendy Lyons Sunshine. She's an award-winning writer and journalist who co-authored a couple of books. They're about kids, though, interestingly enough. The Connected Child, Bring Hope and Healing to Your Adoptive Family. That was a bestseller, translated into multiple languages. She's also the author of Raising the Challenging Child, How to Minimize Meltdowns, Reduce Conflict, and Increase Cooperation. But what's interesting about Wendy is she also blogs about animal welfare and the human-dog dynamic, which I'm interested in. She's written a number of publications and the author of a new book, Tender Paws, How Science-Based Parenting Can Transform Our Relationship with Dogs. Hey, Wendy, welcome to the show.
Hi, Lucas. Delighted to be here and join you.
congratulations on your Wall Street Journal piece. I thought it was such a moving little piece, and I commend our listeners to check it out online. Could you tell us what inspired you to write that? It almost like you sounded as if you were honoring your departed friend.
Yes, that journey that I took with that puppy, and I'll be frank, one of the things that didn't make it into the article was that I was ready to bring that little puppy back to the pound. If my husband had agreed, that poor thing would have gone back to the shelter. I was just at my wit's end. And but I came to see, I had this moment where I turned to the work that the child development experts, had worked on the books that we'd done together, and it really helped me break through the conflict that I was having with that puppy, and really never expected that to happen. I was probably as surprised as you could imagine, and I thought I was imagining things, actually, that parenting techniques could help with dealing with the dog, but it really opened my eyes. It gave me a new appreciation that this little puppy, she really wanted to connect, and she didn't know how. And by using some of the same parenting techniques that benefit children, it opened up a whole new world of possibility in our relationship, and really led me down a really fascinating path that led to that article and to the book.
Sounds like a special dog. The name was Helen? Was the name Helen?
That was Hazel, yes. Hazel.
Yes, Hazel. Okay, I was close. Sorry.
Yes, the dear Hazel, and her pictures I was so grateful they included her picture in there. She, like a lot of puppies, she was a handful there for a while. And, you don't always appreciate what you're getting into until you're deep into it.
Well, we're going to talk about some of your pointers and your interaction with Hazel and what you learned from that experience. But before we do that, I've got a complaint. This has nothing to do with you, but more about humanity in general. Don't you think some people are treating their dogs better than they treat their children? I mean, I know you're saying to apply the techniques, but aren't people unhealthy when it comes to their interaction with their dogs? Some of them.
So that's a great question, because one of the things I discovered when researching this is that there are a lot of different parenting styles, right? So all parenting is not created equal, as we all know. And what studies have shown is that ideally you want to combine high levels of nurturing with high levels of guidelines, and what some people might call, structure or discipline. It can be gentle, but it's still clear limits, right? So you want to combine those two. But some parents, they kind of drop those guidelines to the side, and they become a bit indulgent. So, and that's a particular parenting style, which isn't necessarily going to bring out the best long term in kids or dogs. But we can become aware, once we become aware that we're perhaps getting a little too heavy on the nurturing side. In fact, parents like this tend to have fat dogs, right? Because they're constantly giving treats to their dogs, if that's what you're referring to as one example.
Well, I don't get, I'm sorry, Wendy, I speak from ignorance, okay? But I don't get why people walking their dogs, right? I see it all the time in Florida in particular. They put the dogs in these $1,000 carriages, and they're wheeling these dogs around. And the dogs are not disabled. I understand that the dog's disabled, okay? But they're treating the they're treating the dog like some sort of kid, and they're wheeling him in these expensive carriages. And I'm saying, something is off here. Is it me? Is it my ignorance? Or shouldn't it? You're supposed to walk a dog. It's healthy for a dog to walk. That's part of the exercise regimen. What are you doing pampering the dog in a $1,000 baby carriage? Help me out.
Yeah, I love it, because I remember when I came down here to Florida, too, that was the first time I saw a dog in a stroller, and I thought it was hilarious. And I agree with you on most parts, but I have come to learn, it's very interesting, there are certain dogs that it's actually a kindness. Even though they can walk, they often these little bitty dogs who are, they're living in a world of giants, and it's really intimidating for them to walk on the street with lots of people and lots of other big dogs. And so for those dogs, it can be a kindness to let them have their little throne, if you want to call it. It's actually, it's a way to help them feel safer. And in that sense, I think it's responsive to their needs. Now, if this was a big dog and it was capable of walking and it was just a matter of, I'm not sure what, I have to say I was with you when I first saw it. I thought it was so hilarious. I took a photo of it.
I did too. In fact, I took a video. That's how shameless I was, because it was really weird. And then she took the dog. I'm not naming names. She took the dog to a bar, and she's going to the bar with the dog. Oh my God, it was like, this is the weirdest scene imaginable. So she takes the dog out of the carriage, put the dog on the bar, which is, by the way, is disgusting. You're not supposed to put an animal on the bar or a surface where people, eat. Oh God, people are so dysfunctional. But it happens a lot. But thank you for educating me, because I wasn't aware that this may be a need, particularly for smaller animals.
Right. But I agree with you. They're all range of people, just like with kids, just like being adults. We all have our quirks, and for whatever reason, we don't always agree with what other people do. But in some cases, it's a kindness to the animal. But I hear you. I hear you.
We're going to get to the book, but another thing, getting puppies for Christmas. I hear that that's the biggest mistake, is to do that, that it's cruel, that it's not the right way to introduce a new creature to the home environment. Do you have any views about what is the correct way to adopt an animal or to introduce an animal? Is there a right way and a wrong way?
I think that's a great question, and I love that you're sensitive to this issue, because too often people, get swept up in the moment, or they get swept up by the cuteness of a particular animal or a holiday celebration. And really, the kindest thing to do is think ahead and give that puppy some little space and time for decompression and time to adjust, and not throw them right in the middle of a big holiday celebration. I remember I brought my recent dog Bernie home, and this was not a Christmas time, but it was right before Thanksgiving, and he had only been with us a very short time, and we brought him to a Thanksgiving event, thinking, it was a week or two, it would be fine. But in fact, the poor guy piddled on the floor, and it wasn't because he was being, naughty. It was he was scared to death, and we didn't really appreciate that. He was just overwhelmed. He had lived in the country in a very kind of quiet environment before he came to us, and having all these people and loud welcoming, everybody's excited and greeting each other, and he just didn't know what to make of it. So a puppy who's even younger, it can be even harder. I will say that there are some wonderful resources out there that help families bring puppies into the house very well. There's an organization called Family Paws. There's Pooch Parenting. There's Family Dog. There are a lot of these groups, and some of them are led by people who used to be teachers and now know how to deal with kids, and they know how to deal with dogs, and they can advise families really on the best way to incorporate a new animal of any kind, but especially the puppy.
You know what the problem is, Wendy? Hollywood romanticizes this whole notion. If you love someone, you're going to bring them a dog in a box. I mean, there was a commercial that's running right now. I won't name. There's a dog in the box with a bow on it, and this poor little creature's looking outside of the box. And it was like, this is exploitation. This is Hollywood not being realistic and not doing anyone any favors.
Yes, there's a lot of confusion about what dog body language is telling you. Sometimes I'll see pictures and I'll laugh to myself, because that dog doesn't look as happy as people think they are.
That's right. And we're speaking to Wendy. Wendy, we have to go to a break, but Wendy Lyons Sunshine will be back after this break, and we're going to be talking about her book, Tender Paws. So hold on. We'll be back in a few minutes.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.
Hi, everyone. If you've been injured in an accident that was not your fault, listen up. We have legal professionals standing by to answer your questions for free. Call now and find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth. Call 800-504-8790. I'm here with spokesman John Wolf. So, John, tell everyone listening who should call right now.
Well, Maria, first off, thank you for having me here. It's always nice to answer the listeners' questions. Now, as far as who should call in, anyone who's been injured in an accident and think you deserve compensation, give us a call right now. 800-504-8790. You'll find out if you have a case and how much it's potentially worth.
Thanks, John. You heard it, folks. Take advantage of this opportunity and call now. 800-504-8790.
Advertisement sponsored by Legal Help Center. May not be available in all states.
This is Dennis Prager, and now a truly exciting new benefit. My monthly online video get-together for Pragertopia Plus members only. For an hour each month, get an exclusive chance to ask me anything. I'll be answering your questions. I've never done this. Submit your questions for me at Pragertopia.com. This is our chance to connect like never before. Go to Pragertopia.com or click the banner at DennisPrager.com.
Feel like you're trying to push a boulder uphill wearing skates? If you run or manage a local business today, you're challenged like never before. We get it, and we want to help. We're Salem Surround. We're a full-service marketing agency that'll help you increase your customer base by designing incredibly effective plans to reach your consumers day, night, and everywhere they might be.
If you're a local business and want to see what Salem Surround can do for you, Google Salem Surround New York. Remember to Google Salem Surround New York today.
Welcome back to Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas, live on AM 970, The Answer.
Welcome back. Shake It Off with Mert and Lucas live in the control room, Alex Garrett. And we've been speaking to Wendy Lyons Sunshine, who is the author of a new book, Tender Paws, How Science-Based Parenting Can Transform Our Relationship with Dogs. Sorry for interrupting you, Wendy. They're really tough about these breaks. Where can I find your book? Where can the listeners find your book?
You can find it on any book-selling platform, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Simon & Schuster. It's also available through Recorded Books.
Outstanding. Let me ask you something. So the parenting styles, dogs, kids, what's the difference? Can you tell us the secret?
Well, I can share some of the similarities, which are surprising, actually. Is that there's certain really core basic principles that are relevant for both kids and dogs. I like to use the acronym HEARTS to sum them up. H is for heal the body, because, of course, if you're in pain or you're sick or you're hungry, you're not going to be at your best, and nobody's going to behave well under those circumstances. E is for engage and optimize the brain. And what's really interesting for kids and for dogs is that movement can help dogs stay what we call regulated. In other words, they become more well-adjusted and calmer when they move properly and they get to interact with the world, and that's true for kids and dogs. And then for A in the hearts, it's appropriate environments with felt safety, because the little one needs to feel safe. It's not just about us knowing they're safe. They have to experience it, because there are physical reasons that our body doesn't work as well if we're scared. And so feeling safe is really critical. And then in hearts, that R is for respectful and secure relationships, where you build trust. T is for teaching sensitively and positively. And S is supporting the individual, because just like kids vary, some have, love sports, and some love music, and some love to read, and some don't. Dogs might have different breeds, and even individual dogs have different strengths and talents. So those are the things that are in common. Of course, dogs are more like toddlers, but they can even become adolescents and get a little harder to handle, just like a teen might. There's so many parallels, but they never grow up and move away the same way. Obviously, we work that out through breeding and so forth.
Are you in favor of discipline for dogs, or do you believe that it has to be? For example, some people use corporal, punishment for dogs. Some people use it for kids too. What's your take on that in terms of the structure?
Right. Well, I turn to the research on that, and there's a lot of finding. I mean, enormous amount of research in both domains that shows that the more harsh punishment that's used, the worse the outcomes. And so for kids, that means the more kids get treated that way, for example, the more likely they are to end up in the, in jail, honestly.
So they become dysfunctional. They become dysfunctional.
Right. And for dogs, the more harshly they're treated, the more likely they are to become aggressive. There's a wonderful story. I was so privileged in the book to speak to all kinds of interesting individuals. And one man in particular, he had been a dog trainer who used the conventional harsh methods, and he was getting all kinds of bites. He was paying tens of thousands of dollars being treated in the hospital for dog bites, even though he was supposed to be a dog trainer. And when he switched over to kinder methods, where he took the dog's sort of experience into account, it turned everything around. And he has had much better results. And he's been able to reach dogs that were considered unreachable. In fact, I mentioned him in that Wall Street Journal article.
Well, you mentioned trauma. How do you approach parenting a dog that's experienced trauma, that's already had this history of abuse or neglect? That might be a significant challenge, I would imagine.
Right. Well, there are a lot of things that we can do, and one of the big things is to go slowly and to let the dog consent to certain things. So, in other words, you don't want to swoop in and lean over and pat him on the head and stare him down and any of this. You just like with a child that's been traumatized, one of the things that therapists do is they might sit side by side with them and don't even stare at them, because kids, traumatized kids might feel that that's intimidating. And a new dog that's been scared and really traumatized could also feel that direct eye contact is intimidating. And with the dog, of course, you want to become friends as best you can. And the way to show your goodwill is through what all of us love, treats and food. And done with some sensitivity, you can toss them on the ground in front of the animal so that you don't make them come to your hand, because it could be too scary to come directly to your hand until they get to know you. There are a lot of things that we can do. where we're really just respectful of their experience, and we watch and gauge the way they respond, and they'll let you know. I mean, it's such a magical experience when a dog that has been scared and sort of hiding from you comes over and leans upon you, and it's just so special.
But building that foundation of trust, Wendy, is a challenge and has to be earned. No?
Absolutely. And so it's helpful to adjust our expectations, right? We take these animals home with the best intentions. We really, we have good in our heart, and we want to share our homes with them. But just imagine if you had been picked up and plunked down in some foreign land where you don't really speak the language, you don't recognize the smells in the house, the food necessarily, you're sleeping in a new place, and it would take some time. And that's just the same for the animals. But we can introduce them to the house and give them an idea of what the expectations are, very kindly, but, clearly, and show them that they're safe there. That's really the biggest gift that we can give as a starting point.
Let me ask you, Wendy, what do you think of kenneling the dog in the home? Are you?
You mean some people call it crating?
Yeah. Sorry. Sorry about that.
Right. Yeah. Well, that's a controversial topic for some people, and if there are reasons when it can be appropriate, but there are many times it's done beyond what's really healthy for the animal. And so this is where you really want to think it through, because, again, imagine if you were, I like to compare it to being in an airport waiting room, and it's a little tiny room, and there you are for hours and hours, and you don't know when your flight's going to come, and everything's been delayed, and you're just sitting there, and you're bored out of your mind. You can't move, or if you're stuck on the plane itself. I mean, that's what some of these animals experience. Now,
that's cruel.
Other
sounds
animals
cruel to me. That sounds cruel to me, which is why I want to sue the airline. I'm just kidding. But I read, Wendy, that crating, if done correctly, can be a safe environment because of the natural cave instincts of the dog. Did I misunderstand that? That
is correct. So if the dog is introduced to it, perhaps when he's a puppy, for example, when good things happen in there and it's safe and it's comfortable, and they are still around people, so they don't feel too isolated, and they learn that this is a safe place for them and a comfortable place. I know many excellent trainers who do use crates in appropriate manners. So it is really kind of being thoughtful. It's a matter of being thoughtful about it and understanding the benefits. There are some dogs who feel like that's their little special, hideaway, and if they're feeling overwhelmed in the world, they can go into their crate, and it doesn't even have to be closed. It just becomes their little safe space. But it's also a good idea in many cases. Let's say you live in a zone where you might have to evacuate for some natural disaster. If your dog's comfortable in a crate, and it has positive associations for your dog, then in an emergency, you're in a much better position to keep everybody safe and get out of Dodge when you need to.
That is a great point. We're running out of time, believe it or not, Wendy. Wendy's the author of a new book, Tender Paws, How Science-Based Parenting Can Transform Our Relationship with Dogs. Any final thoughts? We've got about a minute, Wendy. Is there anything you want to say to our listeners? Other than buy the book?
Well, of course, I encourage them to buy the book. There are lots of interesting stories, and some of them are so moving and inspiring. And just to remember, think about the needs of the dog and that they can't express themselves through language. So we have to do our best to try to interpret what they're telling us through their behavior.
Thank you, Wendy. Mert, Alex, this is number 3 is in the can. What do you think?
What a great show. Mert, what'd you think?
It was a great show. I think we're getting better as the time goes on. That was great.
I think we'll get the flow. And we had some great guests tonight. Thanks to Pamela Gale Johnson and Lion Sunshine, thank you for being part of episode 3, another one in the can. Thank you for joining us. If you love us, come back and make sure to call us. We're available when the show is live. Until next time, have a wonderful week.
The preceding program is sponsored by Shake It Off Live, LLC.
Over the last 30 years, Newman Ferrara, a New York City law firm, has evolved into a national practice focused on real estate, commercial, litigation, civil rights, class actions, and other complex litigation, representing many of the city's largest property owners, managing agents, and thousands of tenants. Newman Ferrara handles some of the nation's most significant class actions and civil rights matters. Newman Ferrara at 1250 Broadway in New York City. Go online to newmanferrara.com. That's newmanferrara.com. Listen to the firm's name partner, Lucas Ferrara, every Saturday at 10 a.m. on Dottie Herman's longest-running real estate radio program, Eye on Real Estate on AM 970. A real estate lawyer for 35 years, Lucas is a professor at New York Law School and is also a published author with books on real estate and New York's landlord-tenant law. Tune in Saturdays at 10 a.m. to hear Lucas's unique perspective and advice on Eye on Real Estate.